Well, thanks for having me. So I'm Chris. I'm the Planning, Economic, and Community Development interim director at the moment. I'm relatively new to Wausau. I've been here just under 2 years. I come originally and most recently from Ohio, but I've lived lots of other places in the meantime. So, Deb asked me to come and talk about various things. Usually what we do is have an opportunity when we attend meetings like these to answer your questions and give you a bit of a background on things that are going on in our department per se. So feel free to interrupt or ask questions if you like as we have our dialogue. So some of the things that are going on right now, the city, you might not know, but the city's updating the comprehensive plan, so that's a big project, and it's an important process, because obviously it sets a lot of the strategy discussions for the city related to things like land use, economic development strategy, infrastructure prioritization, things like that go on within the city. So that process is going on now. You may have, there was a survey process that the RPC, the Regional Planning Commission, had worked on the city with, and there'll be more hearings and kind of public input sessions as the final draft is created from the survey results and the feedback and the process that goes through it. So that's kind of ongoing right now.
What timetable do you have for that plan?
Sure, yeah, good question. Yeah, in the fall that will come, the draft will be finalized and start going through public hearing and stuff like that. So if you're interested in following it, if you have a special passion for it, you can let me know, and we'll be sure that you get a draft of it, ahead of time, or when it's ready to go.
So certain chapters have been showing up in front of
all in draft forms.
Committees, appropriate committees. And
exactly, yeah. But the whole thing will be combined into one kind of master draft for comment and question on that. So basically our department is divided into a couple different divisions. So if you think about the planning piece, obviously we do we consult on zoning along with the inspections department, and we handle the forward-looking plans like the comp plan and things like that. Then we have a block grant division, which is basically the federal monies that come to the city to support various neighborhood-based programs. So the city runs a down payment assistance program to help people buy houses. It runs a commercial rehab program for loans for small businesses. It runs kind of various other programs related to neighborhood development. And that's another division. And then of course we have the CDA, or the Community Development Authority, which is the piece that focuses mainly on housing. So we have, I don't know how many folks know, but we have 149 units at Riverview Towers, which is the city's basically a public housing project, and that was just recently renovated. So it's actually a really nice facility. Yeah. And behind it, there's a 36-unit assisted living facility as well, which the city operates. And then we have scattered sites throughout the community. So public housing is not just in a project setting like the tower, but it's also supported through many different sites. And there's I think there's 20 single-family homes. 10 duplexes and one sixplex throughout the community, and those are truly scattered. So we don't they're in different neighborhoods in different areas throughout.
40, I think.
What's that?
40 properties. 40.
Well, yeah, that's right. That's almost 30. Well, 36, I guess, units total. So at least that's what we have at the moment. I don't know historically. And we undertake some redevelopment projects too, which I think you guys had asked, or Deb had asked about the Craft Cleaner site. That's one of topic. That the former Craft Cleaner site, is under environmental remediation. The city holds a grant from the Dry Cleaning Cleanup Fund, which is a statewide fund, and that fund is well, it's unfortunately dried out, no pun intended, but that process is kind of in process there, and we're trying to do the environmental remediation of the site. So that's going to go on for a little bit longer. We're not exactly sure when it will be finished, but when it is, we'll be able to kind of do something, if you will, with the future of that site. Chances are it won't really be a development parcel, but it can be a park space, or it could be a parking lot or something like that.
And everybody knows where that is, right?
It's the empty lot next to Domino's.
Right, the Second Avenue.
Yeah, Second Avenue.
Yeah,
Yeah,
especially
I
in
think
down
you guys
on
probably
the
know.
Clark.
Exactly right. I just wanted to make sure everybody knew that.
And our West Side Pride group was hoping that would become a raised community garden. That's what our plans were, and we're planning to make some pallet garden equipment and that.
We don't have anything.
That has been discussed with Bob. He's been at those meetings.
So, and then another, obviously on economic development, the city has various programs as well that focus specifically. We do a lot on redevelopment of parcels, obviously, which the East Riverfront is the most, probably the largest in everyone's mind. Loon's the largest, although there's others going on as well. And really over the past year and a half, we've had the defined strategy of trying to diversify housing typology, and that's been like a topic of discussion in the city. A lot of times when you meet with our employers, our larger employers in the city, workforce development, attraction and retention is always a big topic for them. And when you drill into that, there's some issues that are handled at each level. Like when you talk about like training, for example, well that's a big issue for workforce retention and development, sure. But it's usually done at the regional level. So there's a workforce development board that's empowered by the state to tackle those issues, and they work closely with NTC, and they're charged with addressing those issues. But so we started working through all those issues, and the topic that came up that I think is best for us to address, or at least that's what the committee felt was housing, especially because you talk to a lot of employers and. Kind of the lack of housing choices in Wausau, just housing diversity in general. The fact that there are homes and there are some kind of suburban apartments and there are a couple urban apartments, but not many. And there are very few like urban properties, like we don't have, for example, row houses or townhouses that you'd see in another type of city as housing choice for young professionals or for empty nesters or for other factors that just don't want a large house, or don't want a house with a yard and those kind of things to maintain. So that's been a key strategy that we've been kind of undertaking to address housing affordability, housing diversification, and kind of do that. And so we have various programs that are going on. Obviously, the East Riverfront is part of that. That project will bring new kind of high-end apartments to the downtown area, which is I think a positive thing. It fills.
By high-end, how much do you need?
Yeah, sure, good question. So I think the rent structure on those isn't totally finalized, but I'm expecting it to be a studio for like $800, a 2-bedroom for $1,200, and there'll be some 3-bedrooms for like $1,300, $1,400. Yes, it'll be very high. And those rents are new for Wausau. There's nothing like that right now. But that's the goal of the project. Again, the strategy was to develop a housing choice that we don't have at the moment. So that means a high-end. So it's not the same rents, because if it was the same rents, then we already had that property.
Right.
We already have that offering. So the goal is to diversify it and to get something totally new. But we're also doing affordable housing projects too. The Savo Supply Building, which is, I think most people might know that building over on First Street, just across the river. That building will be affordable units. They will be redeveloped into apartments, 24, I think, maybe 26 units that are going to go in there, and so that'll be affordable housing.
Okay.
And then
Income-based?
Income-based, yeah, income restricted, yeah. So that way they're specifically scheduled for affordability.
There will be some market rate also.
There's a few market rate, yeah, exactly. It's a mixed building, but there are some reserved just for income, to allow that.
Okay.
Yeah, And then the key too has been to diversify owned property. Oh, sorry.
Question, Chris. You name this more expensive housing, 800, 1200, 13, 14.
Yeah.
Has there been any market research to
Sure.
justify that there are people who would pay that much?
Yeah, of course. So, part of the East Riverfront plan was a market study that was done, and so that underscored the planning process. And then also Pfefferly Management did a rent market, rent research on that specifically for the city and for the developer to determine its appropriate.
Are those reports available?
I assume, yeah. I don't have them on me, but yeah.
No, not on you, but by
You asked for it, yeah.
requesting your department, or
Sure.
you can get those rent study reports.
Yeah, they're not, sure, yeah. Let me write it down, I'll get it.
If I recall, that was one of the issues in the mayoral election campaign was, affordable housing.
Yeah.
For the city of Wausau.
Yeah, it is a topic, and I think the key is that you find folks on all sides of this equation, and I think you could appreciate this. There are some in the camp who say Wausau doesn't need more low-income housing. We need more taxpayers. We need more high-end housing of people who are going to, to contribute, and pay taxes and do this kind of stuff. Okay. And then I think there's also to say, look, throughout the country there's a housing affordability crisis, which there is just statistically, not as bad in Wausau as some communities, but even in Wausau there is housing affordability challenges, And so we know it's both ends, So what we say is that we're trying to tackle, both issues at one time. The real key to housing is that most folks you might not know this, but Bill Nagel, the former chair of the Economic Development Committee, often pointed out that the levy, the real tax levy that supports the city services, is really based on residential property value. That's really the meat and potatoes of the levy. And so the goal has been to diversify that and to get more housing choices so that you have higher income earners and affordable income earners both living in the city and contributing to the tax base. And so that's really important, because if we lose higher income earners to Rib Mountain or to Weston or to other places, that affects all of us as taxpayers. In the same token, we don't want the city to not be affordable for our residents. And so that's a goal too. So it's always a balancing act. And you could debate whether we do it well or we could do it better, and we could gladly take your feedback back, or we could talk more about it afterwards if you wanted to, because there's always ways to be, I think, better at it, but at least that's what we're trying to do. And the third one I just wanted to mention was also home ownership as a real driver. So we know that when employees are homeowners, they're more inclined to stay within the community. They're going to be better bonded to the community, and we know that there's a need for diversification in housing types to own, because if you were coming from, say you had moved here from Milwaukee and you said, I'd like to look at all the type of choices that I could find in Milwaukee, I'd like to look at those choices in Wausau. There's a lot of choices that aren't available, and one especially is the idea of what we're calling an urban formatted house, which is like single family property, but one that's on a very small lot with a pocket park behind it, kind of a little yard kind of behind it, with perhaps a garage off the alley, and like a row house, like a walk-up, a row house, a brownstone, whatever you want to call them, right? And if you go to urban areas of Milwaukee or other cities, they have this type of housing. And it's especially popular with both young professionals and empty nesters who no longer want to maintain a full yard or a whole property and stuff like that. So that's been our goal, and so we took a series of lots through an RFP process, through a request for proposal, at 3rd Street and Short Street. So that's over across from the Glass Hat. And this was the first pilot project for that effort. And the goal was to try to get a developer to build Wausau's first row house, essentially, the first house that looks totally different than other houses. And so that project is going on now, or it's about to be. The council has approved the project, the zoning is being finalized right now, And so they will start building those this year, and the first project is 10 basically connected houses. They're individual homes, individually sold, but they're in a row, like you'd find in an urban area. And that's an appropriate neighborhood for it. And obviously it's a rough neighborhood, it's transitional, kind of, there's a lot of empty lots there, and our goal is to kind of try to fill those in with new residents, and bring vitality and energy back to the neighborhood by doing that. So that's another project that goes on. And,
Question on
we'll see
that, Chris.
Yeah,
The
go ahead.
goal on those is home ownership?
Home ownership, yeah. So they'll be individually sold, yeah. And of course, anyone could buy them. You could buy them, Arden, and rent them if you wanted to. But the idea is that they are sold. So they are individually, individual sold properties. And it would allow, so it allows home ownership opportunities too at an urban level. So we've got, affordable rentals, we have high-end rentals, we have urban formatted ownership options, and then we have what we call our Live It Up program, which is a new home ownership program that just allows employees to buy homes in the city with a no-interest loan. Okay, and so that's another program that we're doing. So we've closed now on 7 of those loans. So we've got a lot more pictures to take, yeah, soon enough. But yeah, so there's 7 loans now in the city that have helped people buy homes in the city. And these are not, this was a different approach. These are employees or workers in the city.
For the city?
No, just for whoever, any employer, yeah. So there's 14 businesses that sign up to partner with the program, and big businesses and small businesses, full mix, and that's what's going on now. So that's a full gamut, I think, of that issue on housing.
Do they lend the money out?
Yeah, the city lends the money.
Oh, the city lends.
Yeah, and they pay it back.
I was hoping the business
Oh,
lend the money.
that's true. They contribute to the pot. Yes, they make a contribution, and the city makes a contribution. Now, the city's contribution is higher than theirs, but it's a mix of the process. Yeah.
I find it interesting, as you said, about the lack of smaller properties, and when I ride to every day to and to work, I'm going through neighborhoods where there's, it's constantly one small house right after another.
Sure.
There's of course, there's a vacant lot on South Bank Avenue, which is, for the time being, it's city property, where the house was abandoned.
Okay, I don't know that one specifically, but
It's
okay.
in 1200 block. So
Okay. I think, but to your point though, I think the goal is that right now this is a real challenging nut for the city to tackle, and really every city faces this challenge, is to create energy and interest in city lots that are these kind of like one-off city lots that, someone would come buy that lot and actually build a new house on it. And when I say new house, well, it's probably going to be a denser property than normal. So it's probably going to be like a shotgun or row house or something, because you're building on an older lot, and maybe it's a smaller lot. And so that's what you kind of want to do. And right now, there's not much interest in those parcels. I mean, there isn't, right? Yeah. And that's one of our greatest challenges. If the city can successfely get people to do that in some way, whether through its incentive or hopefully you build interest and you do that, then so that's why I view this first row house set as a model, because if it can happen, and say take the developer for example. That developer is going to open an office in Wausau and have a design center where then you could come in and you could say, I would be interested in buying one of your row houses, and maybe we develop them on the west side or in East Town or in other neighborhoods or wherever, 9th Avenue, wherever it is. It would create hopefully a market to do those, because I think that's the greatest opportunity for the city to really change the dynamics on taxes. Because the issue is, right now, new development often goes to places that requires new infrastructure, and then it's a benefit, but it's also a cost to the city. while there are certain urban neighborhoods with empty lots where there's water and there's sewer and there's road and there's all the cost of maintaining everything right there. And if you can double the population in that area, or whatever, improve the population in that area, you really do change the tax base.
Yeah.
And there is a demographic shift, really nationally, that shows this trend or interest in urban housing. So we're trying to take advantage of that, and most cities are trying to do it too. So we're incentivizing developers through, this most recent one receives a no-interest loan from the city to kick the project off, because we know it's a speculative building. It's never been built before in Wausau. So any bank is always, going to be, well, what's the comparable of that building? And you say, well, there's no comparable like it because we're the first, But the goal is to create something that then, could be replicated or could be, But I just wanted to go through some of those things that are kind of going on, and then I know you had lots of questions that you wanted me to go over for kind of the West Side area in specific, so I'll try to address some of those, and Deb, if you have more questions, that'd be great too. So on 2nd Avenue, the project is it's pretty much on schedule. There's a transition period right now between the two contractors, so that's why it's been a little quieter. If you've noticed, the underground work is finished. Essentially, they will pour curb, I think this week, or starting this week, so it'll restart. And the new contractor will be now doing the kind of softer, the trimmings, if you will, the brickwork, the paving work, all the kind of the nice parts of it, So, and I think you've seen it's worked out pretty good considering, but all the underground work is now finished, and that contractor is done and moving out. So of interest, Stewart Avenue is generally on schedule. It's not fallen off schedule yet, so it'll be done in the fall, and that I'm sure that's of interest to you. What other things?
The Trinity, the staff of Trinity Lutheran School would probably would have loved it if it would have been done by September.
Oh, I know, right? Yeah, exactly.
So would John Muir.
Yeah, and that's a state project. It's not a city project, so it's the DOT's timeline that you work with, not
The
necessarily
only city
ours.
project that's part of that is the addition of the bike lane in front of Marathon Park.
Yeah, I mean, they're doing a bike lane as part of the project, yeah. But it's still the DOT, yeah. It's still the DOT, just with our contribution.
The cul-de-sac by 2nd Avenue, is that going to stay? Cul-de-sac?
By Clark Street, you mean? That cul-de-sac?
Yeah, Clark Street.
Yeah, Clark Street. So, that is not on the plans at the moment. It will stay as it is at the moment. And our goal is to try to figure out a broader vision for the whole, kind of area right there, and then decide what to do with the cul-de-sac. Because obviously it doesn't serve much traffic, and it's a wide road because it's built for like a city street, but it doesn't really have a lot of activity, and so it's not really
It's good parking.
It's good parking, yeah.
Good parking.
And I think that's the key. Any project would need parking, but if you took it out and created it entirely as parking, you'd have even more parking. Because as a road, it doesn't really do a whole lot except serve those lots there, which might be served through other channels. So I think we're glad to explore that, and we'll see where it goes.
I think from what Carrie Bender, who owns the, I think she gets quite a bit nightly and weekly bus tours. So they're using that cul-de-sac with bus tours coming into her shop.
Her interest, so we need to be sure that she would preserve her parking if there was something else.
Because I go there on Wednesday nights, and it's always full, and then it's so full then when you go over to the other parking lot.
Yeah, no, it's good to know, but obviously the road itself is a wide road that isn't really used. You could access that cul-de-sac from the parking lot, and you could have, you could use half the roadway as something else. I think there's a master planning process that could go on there that would better utilize the space.
Well, Clark and Callan Streets in that area were both part of the Highway 29 corridor. 4th Street Avenue was
That's true.
built as a 4-lane.
Oh,
So where do you park when the cul-de-sac is full?
That's,
Over by the bank, that used to be the bank, travel place.
Right,
Yeah,
that's my
that's-
building, there's
yeah.
lots of parking in there.
There's a parking lot over there.
So that's where you park.
Because it's not good to park in front of the businesses, you know. It's
Yeah.
better for their business,
Well, I was
getting in
wondering,
and out.
knowing the cul-de-sac, I was curious about exactly where you head when that is full.
When that's full, then we go to that other parking lot because, you know, the businesses there want,
Right,
you know,
they
yeah.
want their
Yeah.
parking.
So speaking of parking, you know, East Bay is a popular topic, and it is a big concern for us, and we've had many discussions about it. You know, I think, you know, to be frank, the challenge is getting East Bay to, you know, to invest or value the real estate at a higher level where they're going to, you know, right now they do a very good job maximizing the property they own. It's a nice way of saying that they, you know, kind of use it, you know, very efficient. They squeeze everything out of it, but they're not necessarily investing in it. And so we've had lots of discussions about a way in which they could try to get out of the real estate business and get more into what they do best. And I think that would, if they got more out of the real estate business, it would benefit us all, and they could help them to do that. And we've talked about lots of options for them to either try to buy additional property or develop more intensively at their property. Because really their site, they have a big site. There's a lot they could do with it if they tried to do more with it. You know, there's a lot of density that you could build there. And there's even, I think the city would be willing to talk about helping to do more structured parking, you know, whether that's a small parking garage as part of another building. You know, that would be very helpful. And Covantage could use the parking too, and you know, and other users. So it's an asset to have a big employer, right, like that, right there. But their parking issues are challenging, and we've met with them multiple times. We continue to meet. We were trying to figure out a plan that's actually practical for them, and it's not easy. So
this may be off the cuff, but do you have any idea what Covantage is going to be able to do with their old building?
yes, that's a good question. Deb had it on the list. That is sold, and
Good.
East Bay will use it as parking.
Oh, East Bay has.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
the old
Nice.
Covantage building.
Sold to East Bay? Is it
It's
sold to East Bay, or they're just renting the parking?
I think they're securing that parcel. Yeah.
I think it would be nice to have it as another office building instead of.
Yeah, well, again, to your point, you know, what's happened is the amount of employees that East Bay has in the area is allowing parking to be a premium versus development, right? And that's the challenge. So we have to work through that with them and try to, you know, show them that if you can make money if you treat this as a development opportunity rather than as just warehousing cars, okay? But
Yeah.
that's a different change for them, and you know, it's a process. So I'm not sure where it will go. I just, you know, to let you know, it's certainly on top of mind, and the city's being very proactive on it. We've insisted on meetings with them. We've given them ideas. We're trying to work through it. It's a challenge, you know, because you know where it goes, but we'll see. I think there's opportunity though there.
Every charter needs to encourage things like carpooling or.
Yeah, well, there's that too. Yeah, there's that
The
too.
fact is that they're on a bus line that,
No, they use the bus line. In fact, they don't want to go anywhere else because they like this location for many reasons, and transit is part of it. So, and they have many workers who are reliant on transit, so that's understandable. But the key is just they also need more parking.
some do use bicycles. They have a couple racks there, and I do see it being used fairly well, not a whole lot, but.
More questions?
Chris, I happened to talk to some of the Labor Temple staff downstairs while getting the door open, and it sounds like that East Bay has been talking to the Labor Temple about maybe using their parking. Maybe it is something that it would be worthwhile for you to work with them. I just don't think the Labor Temple knows how to do this, or maybe they can work out something from 8 to 3, you know, in their They almost have a block of parking lot.
Yeah.
And ways of having it by car and designated and
That would
some
be-
type of patrolling or whatever may be a win-win.
That would be a hard thing for them to do, I'm certain, because if they have a major event in this building, like a major union gathering,
Yeah,
their labor temple alone is, and those peak times is basically, they lack parking space.
Oh, yeah, I mean, when they have a union.
well, I can ask them and see if they're.
Well, it may work out to something maybe until 3, and then if they have events, dinner events or whatever, or weekend are excluded, but they've got the largest parking, and it could be
Yeah,
something but I think the Labor Temple is a little naive in this area. They just,
no, I can offer, of course, yeah. More questions? Any concerns that you have in the neighborhood?
Arden, did you hear about that one car that went on the sidewalk by the cheese shop in the last month or two? I think.
The promising.
Yeah, and that Second Avenue and Clark is supposed to have a raised intersection so that there won't be any curbs there then.
I haven't heard that any car went on there. One of the concerns about that, though, is if you have a raise and they get semi-deliveries into the area, how do the semis handle that kind of turning radius? And that is a concern to the businesses there, because several of them get their deliveries
Yeah.
by
Oh.
semi. And so you have to be sort of trucking friendly if you're going to be putting those streets in, and it's supposed to be a business area.
I had thought that, if there was not going to be any curves right near the cheese store there, that would it be helpful to have like a metal U post there, like a bike or similar, to protect those big glass windows from people driving, because there's no curb and into the side of the building. You know what I mean, Arden?
Well, I guess, yeah, you're trying to put some kind of guard up there so they can't lose control of their car and drive into the building.
I don't know if I'd want to use a bike there.
Especially if there is no curb.
For a guard.
Well, they will have a curb there.
Yeah.
They will have a curb there before the project is done. So I don't know what the size of it is, but I know that they don't plan on removing the curb. They were going to have raised curbing on the intersections, or maybe for beautification or to be different.
Yeah, and it slows traffic too, although it should be fine for turning radius. I think that's been verified, but we can ask, do you want me to have Alan speak with you on it, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Glad to hear from anybody because the store owners there are concerned about whether or not
Yeah.
there's going to be turning radius for truck
There-
semi-deliveries.
I'm confident there will be. I mean, it was designed specifically to meet all the required turning radius, so I wouldn't worry about that. But we can have them, he can discuss it. Yeah, obviously we wouldn't lay out a street where it would not have the right turn radius.
All right,
Yeah.
thank you.
No, for sure. Okay. More questions?
Any other word about the dairy at all? I had heard
Yeah.
that Christine was working on water to the old dairy building.
Drinking water.
We have another meeting coming up on the dairy building, and there has been some, positive discussions about its reuse. So, Christine has a vision for the renovation of the building,
A
and
vision and a lot of faith that it can be renovated.
yeah, well, it takes a very practical plan, and there hasn't been a practical plan yet. But I think we've been very clear with her that that's what's going to be necessary to put it forward. And for the, if she she I think expects the city to help with the project, and we of course probably would be more than willing to help if there's a good plan that shows a positive impact for the neighborhood and the ability to you know, to move it forward. So I think, you know, the mayor's been clear with her and staff has been clear with her. That's what she has to present and put together. And, you know, it's been challenging for her to get all that information to put together, and, you know, and that's where it is.
Do you find it difficult to work with her in this, from the city's perspective? Because I know she carried a lot of personal issues from when she was an older person.
Well, I mean, obviously I'm new, so, you know, I don't have as many issues, but I guess the issue is, you know, just looking objectively from my objective perspective, she's not doing the steps that I would recommend or suggest that she should do to really get it to the point where it's redevelopable, you know? Okay, she's not listed the property really publicly, she's not really put together a practical plan, or, you know, fleshed everything out and said, here's the vision, here's what I'm going to do, you know. So we advise her of that. You know, it's not secret. I would tell her that if she was here, of course. You know, hey, we want you to do this because if you know, that's what we believe is necessary for it to succeed. And of course, we want it to succeed. I mean, I'm a fan of historic properties like Gary, not as much as Gary, but like Gary. And you know, we want to see. I think we all want to see the dairy building renovated. You know, I mean, and we want to see it, you know, we want to see it put back to use. But that requires a practical vision, and it's not been there yet. So
I think it's possible because the Port Chapel building where the ballet school is now,
yeah,
that for a long time on the backside it's at ruins.
Sure.
And look at it now.
No, it just takes a little vision, and it takes a practical approach.
I've seen.
It's not rocket science. It's not that big of a building, so I think you can work with it. But
It also takes quite a bit of money.
well, there's
I'm not
money
so
too.
sure that Christine-
I hear Arden has lots of money, so we should ask him.
Yeah, he owns something in my neighborhood too.
I think he owns something in all our neighborhoods.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. No, we won't rag you too much, Arden. But more questions for me? Okay.
Well, that's it. Thank you for coming, Chris.
Yeah, I think that's most of the things you had on your list that we had. Okay.
I do have one more question.
Yeah.
A while back, before you brought up that the city, and we were talking about residential, that are about housing, I mean, and you said that there was you were going to have a public and private and business partnership, and you said you had about 14 people signed up.
Yeah, that's
for
the
that.
limit up.
Explain what this partnership is between the businesses and what are they partnering